Hey, 8th graders. So in this video, we're going to start using radical equations. And so we're going to solve equations when there are radicals in them. Up till now, we have been simplifying expressions. And we will sometimes have to use that when solving our equations. So hence doing simplifying before solving. All right, so we want to find the solution of square root of x plus 7 equals 16. So I need to isolate the x, and by doing that I'm still using inverse properties. So I have a positive 7 here that I need to zero out, and because it is not inside my square root, that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start by subtracting 7 from both sides. We're left with the square root of x equals 8, 9, if I can do my math right today. And then, as we've taught, like when we did Pythagorean theorem, we said the opposite of squaring something was to square root something. And so the inverse of square rooting is going to be to square. So then I square both sides, and in this case we'll end up with x because the square undoes, or is the inverse operation to the square root of x, and then 9 squared is 81. It is good to get in the habit of double checking. Square root of 81 plus 7 equals 16. So then we have 9 plus 7 equals 16, which is true. The reason why you want to check is sometimes in our solving we end up finding answers, but then if we were to plug them back in, they don't actually work. And we're going to get to an example of that, but that's why you're going to see me checking now, because if we get in the habit of checking as we go, then when it does matter, we're already in the habit. All right, so here we are, we have a word problem. Time in t seconds it takes a pendulum of a clock to complete a full swing is approximated by the equation t equals 2 times the square root of L over 3.3, where L is the length of the pendulum in feet. If the pendulum of a clock completes a full swing in 3 seconds, what is the length of the pendulum? All right, so we are looking for L. Sometimes I like to, write out my variables so that I know what I understand what I know and what I don't know. So we don't know the length. That's the one I'm looking for, but I do know the time, which is 3, and so I'm going to plug that in. So we're going to have 3 equals 2 times the square root of L over, ooh, that looks really ugly. Let's try that one again. Of L over 3.3. Okay. So from here, I need to get L by itself. That means I need to get this 2 away from the square root. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. And so that goes away, and we are left with 3 halves is the same as 1.5. I am going to use decimals because we already have decimals further on into our equation. So we're going to go ahead and make them decimals. After I divide by 2, I am left with the square root of L over 3.3. From here, before I can do anything with the L or the 3.3, I've got to remove that square root. And so this is where I'm going to square. And so then 1.5 squared is 2.25. And squaring the square root makes it go away, and so then we have L over 3.3. From here, this is division, so the opposite of dividing is to multiply by 3.3. So those will go away. And then 3.3 times 2.25 is 7.425. And then it wants us to round to the nearest tenth of a foot, so I'm going to go, this is where I want to be. So does the 2 change the 4? And the answer is no, so our length is approximately 7.4 feet. And that is the length of our pendulum. Our next step is really we should check it. I have already done the checking for you, but that's what after we go through all of our steps, again, working through the inverse operations, then we come up with our final answer. All right, on to our next. There we go. All right, so now we're getting more involved with these square roots. I can't add or divide or move things to the other side until these square roots are gone. And so what we're going to do is we're going to square both sides. And so when we square a square root, the square root goes away and we are left with 5t minus 11 equals t plus 5. From here, it's just solving a multi-step equation with variables on both sides. So we're going to subtract t. We're going to end up with 4t minus 11 equals 5. That was a really poor looking 11. Add 11. So then we end up with 4t equals 16 and divide by 4. So t should equal 4. And then just to double check, especially with how many square roots we have going on here, I'm going to plug that in. So we're going to have 5 times 4 minus 11, all of that under my square root, and 4 plus 5. So 5 times 4 is 20, so we have 20 minus 11, and the square root of 4 plus 5 is 9. 20 minus 11 is 9. So at this point, I know that we're going to get the same thing on both sides because we have the square root of 9 equals the square root of 9. And so then 4 is a correct answer. All right, extraneous solution. So an extraneous solution is an apparent solution, but it does not satisfy the original equation. So we should always substitute each apparent solution. So every one of these solutions that we found here, like t equals 4, L is approximately 7.4, and x equals 81. All those are what we call apparent solutions. They seem, apparent means, oh, it seems like, they seem to be a solution. So we should always plug those in and make sure that we don't have an extra solution, because that's what extraneous means. So in solving this one, again, to get rid of my square root over here, I'm going to square, and I've got to square both sides. So now I have n squared equals n plus 12, right? Because the square roots undo each other. Now I'm going to move this n plus 12 to the other side by making them the opposite sign. So n squared minus n minus 12. So again, I'm moving everything to one side, setting it equal to 0 because I have a quadratic now that I have this n squared. I am now going to factor this in order to solve. This is one of those easy factors because we have a value of 1. So I know I'm going to have n and n in the front. Because my back sign is negative, my c is negative, I'm going to have a plus and a minus. And then when I look at my numbers, I know that my bigger sign has to be negative because my b variable is negative. So I need to know what multiplies to 12 and subtracts to 1. And the answer is 3 and 4. And the 4 has to be negative because negative 4 plus 3 would give us a negative 1. So now that I have this, now I can set these equal to 0 and solve. So here I would have that n is negative 3 and n is 4. So those are my apparent solutions. Obviously, if we're talking about this after an extraneous definition, we're probably going to have an extraneous solution, but always remember, double check all apparent. So I'm going to plug in. I've got negative 3 equals the square root of negative 3 plus 12. So we're going to get negative 3 equals the square root of 9. So at this point, I get negative 3 equals 3. That's not true. So right now, negative 3, oh, there it is. Negative 3 is an extra solution. That doesn't work. So now I'm going to plug in 4. 4 equals the square root of 4 plus 12. 4 would equal the square root of 16. So 4 equals 4. So in this case, 4 is a solution. Negative 3 is extraneous. It's being extra. Just like Mrs. Cartwright can get extra. Okay. So this is why we should check all apparent solutions, because yes, we ended up solving, but because of the way the squares worked out, it gave us two solutions, and really only one of the solutions works for the original equation. All right, last example. We're going to identify equations with no solution. So we're going about this. I'm telling you it has no solution just in the title, but how do you know if you have no solutions? So we're going to go about solving this like normal. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides because I need to get that square root by itself before I can square. So I have the square root of 3y equals a negative 6. And then from here, to get rid of that square root, we're going to square, and I've got to square both sides. And so now I have 3y equals negative 6 squared is 36. And then we divide by 3. So I'm going to get that y equals 12. Now that's an apparent solution, so we're going to plug it back in. Square root of 3 times 12 plus 8 equals 2. So we're going to have the square root of 36 plus 8 and see if it equals 2. So 6 plus 8 equal 2. 14 equal 2. And the answer to that is no. So 12 is extraneous. But then you're like, but there's no other option. And because there are no other options, the original equation has no solution. So again, this is where when we come up with an apparent solution and we plug it back in and it does not work and there are no other options, then that means that our equation actually has no solution. Now, I knew, and not that you have to know, but I knew right up here, because there's no way the square root of anything was going to equal a negative value. And so that was part of where myself, who has been working with numbers for countless years, already picked up on the fact that we would have no solution. And that is it. Until next time when we are talking about graphing these functions. Later, 8th grade.